know that it's not that we're not concerned, that we've already probably done our due diligence. So, all right. Next thing on our agenda, number 3, is our recognition. This is one of our most fun times that we have during our meetings. And Dr. Gillum's going to introduce Teresa Ramsey for International Alpha Delta Kappa Month.
All right, come on up, Teresa. And I've got a piece here to read about Alpha Delta Kappa. So October is recognized each year as International Alpha Delta Kappa Month. Alpha Delta Kappa is an international education sorority for women educators. Alpha Eta is the local chapter, which currently has approximately 50 members. ADK strives to give recognition to outstanding educators, build a fraternal fellowship among educators, and establish high standards of education, and promote educational and charitable projects and activities. Board Chair Samantha Burford will also read a proclamation declaring October as International Alpha Delta Kappa Month in Madison County Schools.
I'm happy to. All right. Proclamation for International Alpha Delta Kappa Month. Whereas women in education constitute a great portion of the nation's working force and are constantly striving to serve their communities and nation in educational, cultural, and charitable programs leading to harmony, happiness, and peace among all people. And whereas major goals of Alpha Delta Kappa International Honorary Organization, or Women Educators, are to give recognition to outstanding educators, build a fraternal fellowship among educators, adding to their effectiveness in promoting excellence in education, to establish high standards of education, and to promote educational and charitable projects and activities enriching the lives of individuals everywhere and assisting these individuals into happy, constructive, and fulfilling lives. Now, therefore, I, Samantha Burford of the Madison County Board of Education, by the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2024 as International Alpha Delta Kappa Month.
Great. That sounded great.
It does. Great. Can we get a quick picture and then we'll let you?
I'll just say just a few words.
You want to come over here?
You may have some recruits in the audience.
That's right. That's what I was thinking. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I brought some little treats for you all in our colors.
Well, we appreciate that. Sure.
But anyway, I'm so honored to be a member of this group because there are a lot of outstanding female educators. I wanted to say that we have this year active teachers at Daniel Boone Elementary, Glenn Marshall Elementary, Ignite North, Madison Central High School, and then we have a district-wide VI teacher or HI teacher. Then there are also several from outside of the county, including at Fayette County Model. We have one working at UK Sanders Brown Center, which is it's been a good boost for us because Alzheimer's is one of our goals that we always contribute to. But we do meet once a month during the school year, and every month we have a different altruistic project. So in our first meeting in August, we chose Daniel Boone Elementary Family Resource Center. This month, September, we went and toured God's Outreach and learned a lot about the backpack program. And so one of the things we chose for ADK month, October, was to support one child for the whole year for the backpack program. But every month, we're trying to choose something that will help the students and children of Madison County. So we appreciate your support and recognition, and please enjoy cupcakes when you get a chance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. And we always, we really appreciate our professional organizations, and this is certainly one. And for those of you that don't know Teresa, longtime Madison County educator. So
Yes, and I
thank you.
did have a office right down the hallway for several years, and I always think about Mr. Thomas. And he would always say, I know when Teresa's in the building because her desk is right below mine, and I always hear laughter. So, anyway, thank you all for your time. I know you're very busy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up on our agenda is number 4, audience comments regarding any agenda items that we might have tonight. Tammy, do we have any? Okay, no, so we'll keep going. Number 5 is our consent agenda. These are items that the board sees regularly and we are very familiar with. These items are to be approved on the consent agenda now are 5A, the minutes of the September 10th, 2024 meeting. 5B, the district technology activity report. 5C, the following out-of-state field trips. So 5CA, the Ignite Academy North Business field trip to Nashville, Tennessee on October 29th, 2024. 5CB, the Madison Central High School baseball trip to Fort Walton Beach, Florida and Athens, Tennessee on April 5th through the 11th, 2025. 5CC, the Madison Central High School FFA trip to Indianapolis, Indiana on October 23rd through the 25th, 2024. Do we have any questions on any of these items? All right, if not, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
All right, there's been a motion made by Mr. Rutherford and a second by Ms. Cobb. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. 6 is our action agenda. So 6A, we're going to approve the 2024-2025 working budget with Mr. Mark Woods.
Good evening. How are you all?
Do you need
We're
a
great.
stool?
I hope not. We will see.
I always ask you that when we do the budget.
Yeah. Well, so this is the working budget. This is the third time you've actually seen this budget. Just to kind of go over the process, we start in January with a draft. Not much is known at that point. We get a little more information. We have to do it again in May. And then, according to statute, we have to have the working budget approved before September 30th. So we're looking at these numbers for a third time. We're honing those in to make sure that we're on target for the year and we have everything accounted for. So we'll get started with this. You all have a copy. I've made you some notes. We'll kind of go through those. Please stop me, ask questions at any given time, and I'll be sure to answer those. So we'll start on page 1. We're looking at the revenue there. You see that we are starting with our contingency that we ended with last year. So we will begin that year with that. You have your beginning funds for encumbrances and the site-based money, their carryover funds. That is the school allocated funds. So there, and you will also see another line on there, funds committed for salary increases. We talked about that as we hit the year end, that we had some additional SEEK funds that didn't get allotted to us until May. So we put those back knowing that we would need them this year for raises, for the raise package that you all approved. So that's where that money comes from. Also, there was a little bit more indirect from the ESSER program than we'd anticipated, just timing of when expenditures hit and which year they fell in. So it did account for a little bit more. So we put that money back at the end of the year to use for salary increases for this year. As you move down the page, you can see there's our property taxes for the year. So we got our assessments in, you all approved the tax rate, which was to hold it at the same rate as it was the prior year. So you can see the increases there. And we did not change motor vehicle. The reason for that is our assessments actually came in about $1 million lower, which was a little surprising, but $1 million less than what they were the year before. So we will hold those the same as we had it in the tentative budget at $5 million. Moving on down the page, utilities tax, no change there from the tentative. Again, that is always contingent upon weather and utility usage, so the number there seems to be a good number to hold steady at $5.5 million. Moving on to page 2, omitted property taxes, we made no change from the tentative. those are dependent on state audits and some other items, so we just kind of hold on to those. Moving down, interest on investments. I'm keeping that low. We went ahead, when we did the tentative in May, expectations were that the rates would drop, so we went ahead and dropped that significantly. In the last month and a half, we've dropped 0.5%, so that's a pretty big dip in just a month and a half's time. We went from getting 5.1 on some of our investments to about 4.45 right now. So the Fed is looking at making significant cuts between now and the end of the year, and if they do so, we'll see those drop even more. So we are not going to propose any increases. I think we cut it enough that it should account for any changes in the market. Moving on to page 3, you'll see there that building rent, we adjusted that after we got a better picture of where we were last year. That's just dependent on how many people use our facility. So we had a little better picture after the end of the year, so we did drop that. And we did decrease the other rebates. That is, a few years ago, you may remember that we began a process with Fifth Third where we pay, vendors will sign on for us to pay with an with a card that's called a ghost card. Basically, it's an electronic number similar to a credit card, but it's not a credit card. It's just another way of making a payment via, it looks like a check, but it sends out to them so that they can get it exactly for what it's for. We earn rebates off of everybody that signs up for that. So that's what that is. It's just dependent on usage there. On down the big one, SEEK. We always have to take a look at our SEEK. That is our state funding. You can see there that from the time we did the tentative and what our projections were, we are actually looking at a reduction of $909,000 versus when we had the tentative budget. This does include the $126 per AADA that the state funded and the additional transportation and the additional Tier 1 adjustment. But after our assessments come in, as you know, when assessments go up, SEEK goes down. So we, after our assessment numbers came in, we are seeing a reduction in our projected SEEK by $909,000. Now, an item that I did make note of on there, approximately $1.26 million of the SEEK money for this year is based on Tier 1 funding. That was a one-time Tier 1 adjustment. We will not see anything like that in the foreseeable future. So, in fact, if assessments across the state don't go up extremely high, we could actually see a decrease in our Tier 1 funding. So, we can't expect to get another $1.26 million in SEEK for the next few years off of the Tier 1. Moving on, page 4, you'll see the salary supplements there. Just the basic note on that is they fund a pot. They don't know how many people will apply for that. We have to invoice that every year, so that number could fluctuate based on the number of national board certs or speech paths for the year. Moving on down, revenue in lieu, just making some adjustments for after we looked at the year end where we think we'll hit some items that will be coming in, some things that we projected for the year. So we'll move on through to page 6. Indirect cost, middle of the page there. Slight increase from tentative. That's just due to kind of where we're at, looking at the programs we have. The increased salary also causes a little bit more from food service because their indirect is based off of salaries. So the salary raises causes us to earn a little bit more off of that for managing that. So that's why we have the increase there. Moving on to page 7, you'll see that our total receipts for the year are up just a little bit as compared to the prior year, a little bit down compared to 2 years ago. Overall revenues there, the overall revenues will include your beginning balances, so that's why the numbers are different than your receipts. The receipts is the actual money that we expect to receive for the year. Now, let's get into expenditures for the general fund. We'll start on page 8 there. Majority of the adjustments were for staffing changes and the approved raise package that you all approved. So most of what we did is I go through here, and this is the tedious part of the budget. I actually have a printout of everybody and where they're coded in the district. We have to keep up with everybody. There's certain account codes everybody has to be coded to. I have to go through that, look through the schools, make sure that everybody's accounted for and match up. So once we do that shuffle around, we look at our allocations for the year, where we should be. We make the final adjustments. So that's where most of these adjustments. So you won't hear me point out too many items because most of it's going to be in salaries. In instruction, you will notice that that actually has a decrease from the tentative budget. It's about $661,000. That is due to us receiving funding from the state that we were not expecting for this year. When we did the takeover of the ATC, they promised us some funds that they were normally paying out for the old Kentucky Tech, some operating funds. They had told us that those funds were no more, and then about a month ago, they sent a contract in the mail and said, hey, here, you're going to get them again. So we were glad to accept them. So that's a good thing. So we were able to reduce the impact on the general fund by that $661,000. Moving on, the next item I have noted for you is on page 9. You can see there the general liability, workers' comp, dental, unemployment. We budget that in one line item for budgeting purposes. We actually charge all of those items out according to each category they hit in. So the actual expenditures will be in different places as compared to where the budget is, but just for tracking purposes, we put it in one place in the budget. So that's why that is so inflated on that line. We did increase that for anticipated increases in rates this next year, so I did put back some extra money in there because I do expect that our insurance rates will increase. Moving on through page 11, you'll see there that under plant operations and maintenance, purchase property services, I did increase the budget versus the tentative by approximately $800,000. If you remember at the last board meeting, you all approved POs for storm damage. So that's to cover the storm damage. That's what it's going to take to add to the budget, so it makes sure we cover those. So that's just me capturing those items. Moving down the page, next section is student transportation. You will see there on property, that's your bus purchases. It looks really inflated as compared to prior years. It's because we are still paying for last year's buses. We pay for them as they come in. We do a purchase order, we carry the purchase order over, we liquidate as they come in. So that allows us to pay off last year's as we actually receive them and to encumber funds this year for the new buses that we need to purchase. Moving on through, we'll go to page 13, getting towards the end of the general fund budget here. The big item here is to look at the contingency. You'll see we increased that as compared to the tentative. At the tentative, we were dipping into contingency. We didn't know what our revenues from tax would be, so we have to go into contingency. We had to do that to make the budget work and to do the raise package. I have brought that back up in this budget to make it whole. At $11.9 million, but one thing to keep in mind is that's a healthy number to keep for contingency. It takes $3.3 million to run a payroll in our district. That leaves us just under 4 payrolls if something were to happen and we were to need our contingency to cash flow. So that's 2 months of payroll. So that is a healthy contingency, and we want to try and maintain that balance as long as possible. That's why at the end of the year, we had some extra funds come in that we were not anticipating on, and I committed those back for future salaries so that we could keep our contingency whole.
Mark, is that an industry-wide standard for how much, what is the recommended amount for contingency to keep?
It will vary with school districts. You know, the state mandate is 2%.
Okay.
2% is not enough. And I would not recommend any district to be at the state mandated 2%, because should you fall into an event where you need to cash flow, that could be really detrimental. I usually see anywhere from 6 to about 10, 12%, roughly. We have a few districts in the state that have passed policies mandating no less than 10%. So it kind of varies by district. But I think this is a good, healthy contingency for us. It keeps us in a good place and allows us to have those funds to cash flow. You know, when we're talking about a lot of the state and grant funds, which we're getting ready to go into, that's the next section of the budget, we have to cash flow those. Well, you spend a month, you invoice in the next month, and it's usually closer to the third month before you get the first month's money back. So you're usually out 2 months' money at any given time. So, you know, we need to keep money back to cash flow for those necessities.
Thank you.
Moving on, page 14, as I said, this starts Fund 2. Fund 2 will be your federal, state, and local grants. Those have to balance down to zero, so we have to, whatever we're receiving, we have to show that it's going back out and it's a dead zero. So nothing really major in those, just some cleanup, because we know more about what our grant totals are for the current year. Moving on to page 21. 21 starts Fund 21, which is district activity funds. Those are non-student generated funds that schools sweep over to the district. They use these for things like athletics, library, field trips, etc. The budget is in there because we have to put a budget in. It's close to what last year's actuals were. We don't know how much money they're actually going to sweep. So when they actually look at their reports, they only look at year-to-dates. They don't even look at the budgeted amounts. Moving on to get to the next fund, Fund 24. I'm sorry, page 24, Fund 25. Whew. That's a tongue twister, isn't
We
it?
were with you.
Yeah. All right, so Fund 25 actually came about, we're in the fourth year now. These are student activity funds. According to GASB 84, we have to record these on our financials. So I actually have to, everything that they do at the school, I have to look through all of those and bring all of those records into Munis to be able to put them on our financials and for them to be audited. So this is where they get accounted for. We are not required to budget in these, but this is everything that the school does. So you'll see the actuals. That's actually the money that the schools are spending from their accounts on their level. Moving on, the next will be on page 28. This is our capital outlay. These funds are restricted, so when people look at any of our financials and our balance sheet and they see Fund 310, which is capital outlay, these are restricted for building projects. That's all we can use them for. They're restricted by KRS. They're required to be held at $100 per AADA of our SEEK. So it's SEEK money that we have to hold back and put into building projects. We have no other choice but to use them for that. So a lot of times we get questions about some of the capital projects we're doing. Well, we're using these funds that's all they can be used for. We can't use them for salaries, anything else. Moving on to page 30. That starts our next section of capital funds. This is FSPK. It's also, you'll hear people refer to it as our nickels. It's a portion of our tax rate that's actually under statute, has to be spent only on building projects or to pay for bond payments. It's currently equivalent to 17.1 cent of our tax rate. That's approximately 27% of our tax rate. It goes straight into this. Again, it has to be spent on building projects or to make bond payments. You'll see down there that we did increase versus the tentative. This is our real estate taxes, so we did increase that due to assessments. Move over to page 31. As we talked about it earlier with SEEK, this money is also equalized and matched. You will see that the state revenue, we decreased due to assessments coming in. So while we got some money from the increased assessments in our local revenue, the state equalization of our building projects went down by almost $500,000. Moving on to the next section gets us into construction. That's just budgeting construction funds, nothing really in there much. Page 37, just a note on that, that's our debt service fund, Fund 400. The funds are transferred. We talked about FSPK, you make bond payments. This is the fund we have to transfer them in. We have to pay all of our bond payments out of it. So I've went through there and adjusted for our annual bond payments and leveled that up. We also, in there, you will have some state SFCC funding that's been committed to some of our projects, so that's where the state pays a small portion of our bond payments. Fund 400 goes all the way over through page 39. That starts food service. And,
I got a question.
Yes.
And I guess it's appropriate.
Sure.
What is our bonding potential as it stands right now?
I would have to get that from Dr. Tarvin, but it's probably around 90 million, but we still got some projects to go,
Yeah, okay.
so.
That's good enough. I knew that it increased and we were in really good shape. for
Yeah,
the
I
district.
think actually after an anticipated bonding of Waco, it's gonna be at 87 million.
Okay. That's fantastic.
Yes, yep. So that allows us to continue doing our projects, and for some of you all that don't know, bonding is we sell bond packages, and that's how we finance our facilities. So we have to, it's like getting a loan, but it's a bond. So we pay out to people that buy packages of our municipal bonds. All right. Page 40 starts Fund 51, that's food service. So food service, everything food service. We went through, we adjusted the biggest pieces, looking through here. We'd kind of targeted our food costs pretty well. We had to make a few changes here and there. We talked to Amy Carmichael about potential equipment needs that she might have that she would need to spend her funds on. And then, of course, the salaries, capturing those and then making adjustments in there for those. That moves us down to the last few items that you will see when you're looking at your budget. You've probably noticed on your budget before, Fund 8 and 81. That is how we record our assets. That's just an accounting entry. We pull it out, we run assets in there. Fund 8 is all our governmental assets. Fund 81 is food service assets, and that's where we run our depreciation every year on those assets. So really, there's not anything to do with those. There's nothing to budget. So now I'll open it up for more questions.
Great job as always.
Thank you.
Your ability to accurately predict our budget all along is amazing.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you so much.
And your
I have a magic 8 ball. It's pretty good.
Even during inflation, you do a great job.
Are there any more questions? Okay, then if not, I need a motion to approve the 2024-2025 working budget as presented by Mark Woods.
So moved.
Is there a second?
second.
All right, the motion's been made by Ms. Brock, second by Ms. Coyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
All All right, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank
Mark.
you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. I hope you guys understood all that. I know it was a lot, we would love for you all to work at our Madison County school system someday, but if not, I hope you have a CFO as good as Mr. Woods here. So, really do. All right, moving on to 6B, to create and ratify a 1.0 LBD position, a teaching position at Daniel Boone Elementary School. Do you want to say anything? or-
Just as our numbers increase, we add staff to do that. So we've had additional students qualify for special ed services.
Are there any questions? All right, then I need a motion to create and ratify a 1.0 LBD teaching position at Daniel Boone Elementary School.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Ms. Cobb, second by Mr. Rutherford. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. 6C, to create, ratify 2 athletic site managers. This is site manager positions at Madison Central High School at $1,500 stipend each paid.
Yep, we did, Madison Southern did the last meeting, and Central put their stuff in, so,
Yeah, this is
yeah.
exactly what
Typical
we
every
did.
year thing.
for
Yep.
Madison
Paid for by
Southern.
school funds, yeah.
Are there any questions? All right, then I need a motion to create and ratify 2 athletic site manager positions at Madison Central High School at $1,500 stipend each paid for through their school athletic funds.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Ms. Brock. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, a second by Mr. Rutherford. All those in favor? All right, motion carries. Moving on to 6D. Create and ratify 2 paid football assistants. This is at Madison Central High School as well. Any questions?
Same thing.
Yes. All right, then if no questions, I need a motion to create and ratify 2 paid assistants for Madison Central High School football at $1,154 each to be paid by school athletic funds.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made by Ms. Cobb, second by Ms. Coyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 7, comments from the board. No comments tonight.
We're good.
All right, we'll keep going then. Number 8, we're going to enter into executive session due to discussing pending litigation for which disclosure would compromise, I guess, for KRS 61.8101C. So before we do that, I need a motion to enter into executive session to discuss pending litigation for which disclosure would compromise posture per KRS 61.8101C.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Mr. Rutherford. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Brock. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. We're now into executive session. executive session.
So moved.
I'll
Second.
second.
Motion's been made by Ms. Cobb, I think, and then a second by Ms. Brock?
Yep.
Is that what happened?
She beat me.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. We have no action as a result of our long
All that talking
discussion
and
back
nothing.
there. So that was item 10. Item 11, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Mr. Rutherford. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Coyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion